Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another Cafe and Diner Archives receipt chain, this time with TDC. You'll notice with this particular receipt chain that everything is passcoded. We'll start with the very first one, which is CTDC01. The password hint is the red book. The answer can be found in the previous receipt that we read in the last video, CTMS05. It's 3 words. I already know what this is. They called that book The Dark Contract. So, Dark Contract. Perfect. This one was posted by the owner on the 12th of November 1995, and it says, "Aw, what an interesting turn of events. In fact, this has been more illuminating than I could have hoped for. And by the by, number 35 did a wonderful job at recalling her dreams. I myself am not much of a psychonaut, but I know how difficult it can be to recall speech, let alone text, from the astral plane. So, we know the name of Padre's Red Book now, or at least what it contains, his Dark Contract. I am only familiar with the rough concept of what a dark contract might entail. Obviously, contracts are nothing new for the Princes of Hell, and certainly not the Prince of Wrath. A contract, in this sense, is a magical binding between 2 or more entities. Typically, princes will contract out a portion of their power to mortals or lesser demons for some exchange of service. As such, magical contracts are inherently, shall we say, unbalanced. To form a contract, you would need a magnitude of power between signing entities. Otherwise, the contract would be pointless and dangerous. The power imbalance adds a degree of safety for the contractor, and even the contracted. For the contractor, they only need to lend a fraction of their power and can easily take it back should tides turn or services go unrendered. And for the contracted, the more powerful a contractor is, the easier they can be brought to justice should terms be broken unfairly. And that is the key. Justice. It may surprise some to learn that the Court of Angels keeps all of Satan's contracts. Why? Partially because of the added safety of it on both sides. But more importantly, angels typically have the power needed to activate a contract's terms. It is no small task to lend out your strength to another, the strength, of course, being in the metaphysical sense here. However, it is a trivial task for angels, so they are often used as intermediaries. What does this all have to do with the Dark Contract? I'll give you all a guess, though I would hope it's obvious. This contract is not in the records of the angels. It is held between Satan and 3 other very powerful beings, and somehow the power transfer took place without angelic aid. Critically for us, it is a weakness. That's pretty ominous. The next one we have is CTCO2. The password is Keeper of Contracts. I can't pick out anything that would tell me what the answer to this is, so we're going to go to the Archives wiki. Clue 1 is who keeps record of all contracts? It's an angel, obviously. The specific keeper, which angel or archangel, I guess, would fit this bill. Check Aries, the House of Ancient Powers, in the Zodiac Files. I'm not going to go there yet because I don't want to spoil anything for myself or you guys, so we're just going to find out what the answer is. Metatron. Never heard that name before. That's new to me. This one was posted on the 16th of November 1995 by Employee 44, and it says, "For the past few nights, I've been consumed with trying to learn more about this dark contract that Padre made with Mrs. Pleasant, Umbra, and Akka. I figure I should take full advantage of the blissful peace of my sister being over at 35's house while it lasts. Not to mention, my parents have an impressive amount of coffee-related literature to pore over, and while I have found some interesting tidbits about princely contracts, almost every source I've been able to find intentionally leaves out non-court approved contracts. This is because most of the books I've been reading originate from the Iris Company, one of the 4 Indigo organizations. The Iris Company, as I understand, largely deals with the litigation surrounding contract disputes between humans and demons. So, most of the books I've been able to find are in some part authored by them, of course. And of course, they wouldn't include information on more illicit or unsanctioned transfers of power. Though I did find one book that actually mentioned dark contracts. While it didn't go into great depth about the topic, it mentioned a few key details that might help us outserve the Open Doors Church. According to the book, dark contracts cannot be duplicated, augmented, audited, or otherwise altered until the terms of the contract have been fully satisfied or rendered impossible. So what does that all mean? Well, as I understand it, dark contracts must be wholly original, unlike standardized witch or boogeyman contracts, which explains why it's in a separate book. The terms are also set in absolute stone until satisfied on both ends. So even if one party brought the dark contract to the Court of Angels, they would be unable to do anything to change it. Additionally, even if the court would rule on dark contract, the dark contracts can't be audited at all. Once signed and sealed, it is obscured in a sort of darkness, thus the name. I'm still trying to figure out how we can use this information to our advantage, but we know that the terms are set, and no one can see what they are, not even Padre or his triad. Okay then, moving on. We have CTDC03, the password hint is evil is a name of a foeman as I live. It's research, it's one word. I typed this into Bing and I got palindrome, so we'll type in palindrome. Perfect. This one is also from Employee 44, and it's posted on November 21st, 1985, and it says, I can't imagine why Padre would want Mrs. Pleasant to bring Miss Andrews to LA. I mean, it seems like it would be a bad idea to have the Open Doors Church in Astoria's crosshairs. Speaking of, our parents have pulled out of LA for the time being, so I'm writing this from our best friend's own doorstep. Don't worry, number 62 helped me configure the CADCOM to not send out any unwanted signals while I'm here. Though we're not the only Astorian kids here. The lighthouse is overrun with familial refugees from LA. Of course, this has given me the perfect opportunity to snoop around A23 archives for any information on dark contracts and what Padre might be planning. I wasn't able to access anything too deep. Pretty much everything I found in the archives was the same as what I could uncover back home. Though I had a secret weapon, my sister. She's fiendishly good at getting people to open up and say things they really shouldn't. After mixing and mingling with a few of our salt-fingered friends, we finally got some information on what was happening. So, according to one of the echoes, Padre wanted to destroy LA, and to do so, he had Mrs. Pleasant unleash Miss Andrews. A23 is doing everything it can to avoid destroying the city, not out of the kindness of its heart, of course, but to not feed into whatever Padre is planning on doing. Of course, we had to fill in a few of the blanks ourselves, and we assume the very bad man is Padre in this scenario. We did run into one of the Zulus as well, and he seemed oddly eager to chat for a Zulu. It must be one of the new guys. In any case, he confirmed what the Echo told us with one interesting addition. The Zulu claimed that Padre is trying to destroy the city to create an anathema proxy. I don't know what that is, but it sounds pretty important. Also, the Zulu is probably going to get, well, silenced. Yikes. That is pretty worrisome. And a big yikesy. You don't want to be talking too much. Our next receipt is CTDC04, and the password hint is curses. It's in the previous one, it's one word, and it's something we've been seeing constantly. It's also the name of this particular arc in the Open Doors saga, Anathema. This is posted by number 17, the 22nd of November, 1995, and it says, an anathema proxy, That is indeed likely an important connection. Good job, 44 and 1313. I did do the due diligence to confirm what 44 and 1313 were told. My sources have indicated that Agent Racecar spoke to the twins and one of the Zulu agents. Racecar is a fairly reliable source of information, and he was seen talking to many of the visitors to the lighthouse yesterday. I wouldn't be surprised if he was in charge of relaying information, though why they wouldn't delegate that to Victor, Whiskey, or Yankee is beyond me. As for the Zulu agent, I know exactly who they are. For the sake of Zulu secrecy, which they do love so much, I won't name them here. Though I can only imagine it was no coincidence or a slip of the tongue that the Zulu agent dropped such a helpful piece of information to two Café and Diner members. I think it's fair to say if a Zulu said it, they had permission to do so. In fact, Shaka probably wanted this information to get out, for better or worse. Though the genie is out of the bottle and there's no putting it back in now, so what exactly is the anathema proxy? The only thing close to an anathema proxy I could find was a very small hidden clause in the other side's soul accord. The Soul Accord is the major agreement of governances between the 7 princes of hell. Should all 7 princes be unable to carry out their duties in the other side, their duties can be taken up by a proxy or a regent. Nothing strange about that. Though looking a little deeper, should no appropriate demon in plena sin act as proxy, any mortal anathema can be chosen to act in full simulacrum with all rights and powers of their plane. A strange clause, to be sure. Unfortunately, at least in the version of the Soul Accord I was reading, anathema is not defined. Though, assuming I understand it correctly, whatever this mortal anathema is, they would be granted the full simulacrum of their plane, key to hell included. I'm not sure that I like that. I'm not sure that I like that at all. And we have our very last receipt, which is, again, passcoded CTDC05. The hint is simply sinful. It's 3 words. I'm going to get the clues to this because I'm not totally sure. In CTDC04, what could possibly be related to sin? Try translating it from Latin. In plena sin? That's the only thing that had sin in it. And I'm right. We have our last one that's posted by number 44. Again, it's not closed out, which is not a good thing anytime it happens. On November 27th, 1995, and it says, what exactly did Mrs. Umbra mean by lest you become an anathema yourself? Is Padre's plan to turn number 35 into an anathema? No, I don't think that's right. Why would he risk her dying in Astoria's retaliation if that was the case? Or does a person need to die to become an anathema? Also, from what Mrs. Umbra said, it seems like their plan isn't specifically to turn 35 into an anathema, but she could end up becoming one, right? Well, let's take a step back and consider what we know about the anathema proxy and what Padre and his parish have done so far to achieve it. The anathema proxy, to our knowledge, is a clause in the Princes of Hell's soul accord, the treaty upon which all mortal souls' afterlife rests. The clause states, should no appropriate demon in plena sin act as a proxy, any mortal anathema can be chosen to act in full simulacrum with all rights and powers of their plane. So, in plena sin, I believe, means in full sin. So if no demon has enough sin to act as the proxy for a demon prince, it can be passed on to any mortal, humans included. Though this whole clause is sort of dependent on the Princes of Hell being unable to fulfill their duties in the first place, right? Regardless, so far, Padre has had Mrs. Pleasant cause some sort of boundary line disaster to unleash a death virm on LA, with the intention of the Astoria 23rd Agency nuking the area to deal with it. Padre has also had Mrs. Ockel infiltrate our high school, and likely other high schools in the area, to trick teens into playing the Red Man game. And Mrs. Umbra, well, she's been terrorizing number 35, yes, but I don't think it's necessarily in service of Padre. I wonder if Mrs. Umbra really is here just so Padre has access to Mrs. Aka. Or perhaps what Mrs. Umbra's been up to has been completely concealed in the shadows. And this all brings me to, I don't know. Why would blinding teens and blowing up cities create anathemas? How could number 35 become an anathema by accident? Suppose Padre successfully created 7 anathemas. Wouldn't the other princes need to be killed first for the anathemas to have any real power? And if that's the case, why bother with the proxies? Padre could just kill the siblings and take their keys by force, right? And that is a very ominous question to leave things on. We only have a few more receipt chains in the anathema proxy arc of the Open Doors saga. I'm really excited to see the conclusion of it and move on to a new one very soon. So until next time, sweet nightmares. I just wanted to take the time to thank my Patreons and channel members. Your support is so appreciated. If you are not a channel member or Patreon and you would like to become one, there's a link in the description below. All channel members and Patreons receive 24 hours early access to all content posted on both of my channels. And all Patreons or channel members of the $10 Hellhound tier can request one horror-related video or stream topic, or one horror-related game that I play on my live streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Again, thank you so much for supporting the channel and the content that I make.